And I'm joined by Mr. Anthony Gomes. How you doing, Anthony?
Oh man, doing great, Lee. Thanks for having me on, brother.
No problem at all, and absolute pleasure, mate. Like I said, you were a bit of discovery me for last year after you appeared on my good friend Ryan of Beyond the Vibes podcast. So first of all, apologies for not checking you out sooner, mate. But it was Ryan's podcast interview that brought you to my attention. So it's been good to delve into your back catalogue and now to have you on the show. It's great. So yeah, thanks for your time again, mate.
Pleasure to be here, and welcome to the family. you know, the great thing is we're being turned on to so many um, musical freaks. I've always, I love that line in the Queen biopic where Freddie Mercury says, we're just a bunch of misfits playing to a room full of misfits. And that really resonated because um, I love doing things with podcasters because I feel a real connection to. I'm just like, well, I play music, but I'm just on the other side. We're all on the same team. I'm the dummy that waits 3-4 hours before the band, the doors open, or I get tickets right when they come out. I got my Led Zeppelin, hoodie on. You got a Dirty Honey shirt. Like we're lifers in this. So
Absolutely.
I love doing these things and the opportunity to meet people. Um, that music has made such an impact on their life, and it's the reason they get up in the morning. Um,
Absolutely, man. Like you say, we're all in it for the same reasons. It's all sparked off something within us all.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
And so your most recent studio album, High Voltage Blues, which came out in 2022, is now, I saw a post earlier this week, it's now been in the Billboard Blues chart for now 54 weeks. That is
Yes.
amazing, mate.
Well, so here's a crazy thing. It debuted at number one, which a couple of our albums had done before. And typically they just sort of trickle off the chart.
Yeah.
And it trickled off the chart. So, we're like, oh, hey, well, if we hit number one, that's great.
Yeah.
And then sometime about a year ago, um, a fan wrote and said, hey, man, you've been on the charts for 10 weeks. Congratulations. I'm like, what? I called up our label. They were like, yeah, you've been on the charts for 10 weeks. Girlfriend and I, we went out for dinner. We celebrated. It was just a really uh, a proud accomplishment. 10 weeks. I think the longest we had been on was like 4. So it was like, wow, and it sort of had a revival. So it was really cool. And we were done the celebration. If you told me then, it'd be on for 54 weeks, I'd be like, well, you're mad. You're just out of your mind. No way. So here it is, and it's sort of, it's taken this interesting journey. Like it goes up and then it's just about to fall off and then kind of creeps up back again. So one week I looked at the bottom 3 or 4 slots and I'm like, oh, finally fell off.
Yeah.
But we were on, but I didn't bother to check the top half. So uh, it's been cool. I think it's been on the charts so long because every week new people are discovering us.
Mm.
Had we not been an emerging act, albeit decades in the making, um, maybe that wouldn't have happened to this extent. But it's like every week we're getting a lot of new emails and people saying, "Hey, I just discovered you guys for the first time." So it's a very cool feeling.
Yeah. I mean, how does that feel? Because obviously you, like you say, I mean, I've delved back into your catalog now. Obviously, like I was saying, like this over the course of the last year. So is that right? I think it's 13 or 14 studio albums you've released in total.
Yes, yeah, 14.
Yeah, so you've got you've got a hell of a catalog there, man, and it's all great. And then it feels like, like you're saying, more so recently with the last few albums, certainly that, you're getting that recognition or again. How's that feeling?
Yeah, I have a friend of mine who's a well-known singer, and he wrote to me and he said, "Hey, it's just crazy how the music industry is. And your time to shine." And we never gave up on it. Living slightly above the poverty line for 25 years, and sleeping on people's couches, and we had the same 70 people for years come to every time we were in Cleveland, Ohio, same 70 people were there, and they helped keep gas in our van, help keep the lights on at home, pay the bills, and get a new pair of leather pants. And then you know, but these people kept us going, and boy, I'm so grateful for that. And you know, we've stayed at these people's houses. We know that we've seen their kids grow up, and you know, had success happen earlier, um, that would have never happened, I think, because you know, we're just starting to notice, you know, as you get a little bit bigger, somehow in people's minds, not in your own, you seem less approachable somehow.
Yeah.
And so, you know, and then people start to get a little weirder, but that's another story. But yeah, so it's been very cool, man.
That's cool, man.
And it feels great too to live now one step slightly above the poverty line. You know, I don't have to order from the value menu.
I mean, speaking of bigger names, obviously you've got two bigger names. I mean, talk for a rhythm section on this record. I mean, Ray Luzier of Korn and Mr. Billy Sheehan. Like, I'm a bass player, so when I saw that, you know, Billy was involved in this record, I was like, I've got to listen to this. It's Billy Sheehan, man. But how did that come around?
Well, our label is Rat Pack Records, and they have an association with Ray. Ray's in a band called KXM that's on that label.
Yeah.
Killer band. And then Billy's done some stuff for Rat Pack too as a guest on other artist stuff. And him and Ray are pretty tight with that David Lee Roth connection. Yeah, our label just approached. We did a best of with High Voltage Blues for people who are unaware. And our label said, look, let's just not slap together a bunch of songs that you've already released and make it a money grab. Like, let's re-record these songs and let's bring in like some people that are well known. So Joe, the guy at the label, goes, what do you think of Ray Luzier on drums and Billy Sheehan on bass? And I thought, wow, what a dream come true. This is amazing. Like, I grew up listening to Billy Sheehan. Billy Sheehan, I mean, he's, you know, I have all the albums he played on. I remember when, you know, we were in high school, and David Lee Roth was touring on Eat 'Em and Smile, and everybody was like, this is the most mind-blowing band, you know.
Absolutely.
You know, and to have that guy play on your album, wow. I mean, and to hear his interpretation of our music was one of the greatest moments of my life as an artist, to hear somebody that, both guys that you respect so much. You know, I guess it's like if you're writing a play or something, and you know, you get De Niro to come in and, you know, interpret what you wrote. It was just mind-blowing. And then on top of that, they were the nicest guys would ever want to meet. I mean, just super human beings. And so, I mean, also too, when you have them on your tracks, you can't blame the rhythm section. Right? You get, man, this song sucks. Well, the drummer was doing a good job. So the pressure in a good way was on to deliver, because these are two guys that are at the top of their field. And I mean, I had to do my best to represent myself, to be worthy of them being on the album. Yeah. And so it made you dig deep, and I guess the best way to say it is not suck, right? I had to go in and not suck, because these guys were so amazing. So yeah, it hit on a bunch of different levels. You know, it hit on this level of it being just an amazing thing, and it hit on a human level that they were really great guys, and on an artistic level, it pushed me so yeah, so it was very cool.
And in a lot of ways, in certain moments, not necessarily pitch-wise or anything, but just sort of kind of vibe-wise, while I was listening to that record in particular, in certain elements of it, it kind of reminded me of like a heavy version of like Cream, because Ray and Billy are so like busy, and then you're not too simplistic, but you know, it's almost that kind of Clapton-esque thing heavied up over the top.
I am so happy you mentioned that, because when I heard it, I said, oh my God, this sounds like, humbly stated, I don't want any negative comments here. But look, humbly stated, this reminded me of a contemporary Cream. And Cream was a blues guy with two virtuoso players.
Yeah, I mean, look at
Um,
Jack Bruce and Ginger Baker, what they were doing before, Cream. It's insane.
oh yeah, so and further to that point, I just moved. This is a new office studio place, and I have Disraeli gears framed like.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, yeah. So anyway, it's not up on the wall, but it should be on the wall. It should be on the wall behind me. But I'm a huge fan of that album. Everything, the artwork, its place in history. But I never get to play some Clapton licks because you know you need a lot underneath sometimes.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I was telling the producer, hell, man, I just played I just went into my bag of Clapton licks because I had that support, from underneath, which was really cool. So,
That's cool.
yeah.
So, like with that, did you approach the songs? I mean, I've heard some of the tracks in previous recordings, but did you approach those differently in terms of did you just completely scrap it, or did you look at the song stylistically and say, right, I want to do this with it, I want to do that with it, or did you just see where Ray and Billy had taken their parts and see what you could do?
Um, yeah, excellent question. A lot of the stuff I had already recorded just with a click track and sent it to them as a guide.
Okay.
So they had something to play with. And then after hearing what they did, I altered some things just because it was a little bit less of a guessing game. Okay, here's what's going to happen here exactly. Um, I, I think what happened on this album, Lee, is that my whole career, I've always been wrestling with the fact that I love Ronnie James Dio as much as I love John Lee Hooker.
Yeah.
And in the marketing of stuff, I've always had somebody, right on my shoulder, breathing heavy, going, can't be too rock, can't be too rock, So I won't say it was disingenuous. What I'll say is sometimes you show a different side of your personality depending who you're with. So if you're with your buddies and you're having a beer, you might drop an F-bomb. If you're with your mom, you may not. You're still 100% the same person, right? So I was sort of maybe not showcasing some of the heavier rock stuff. With High Voltage Blues, I just said, after doing 13 albums, maybe I'll do one exactly the way I want to. And if people don't like it, well, that's okay. And one thing I've learned, and it's sort of become my little catchphrase, is what you think is your greatest liability ends up being your biggest superpower.
Okay.
And I think that a lot of people all of a sudden came out of the woodwork because there are a lot of people who do have an Ozzy, Zakk Wylde album and a Stevie Ray Vaughan album in their catalog. So to draw from both of those sources, I think appeals to people, and it's just me being 100% transparent. So.
No, I think that's a good thing, man. I think all my favorite artists do exactly that. I mean, you're sitting there with your Zeppelin hoodie on. I'm saying with my Dirty Honey t-shirt, we mentioned, Dirty Honey have got various elements to sound. Zeppelin notoriously had various elements of their sound.
Yes.
I think all the great artists do. I don't get me wrong. You get certain bands that I love to bits, bands like AC/DC who have got their formula and they are what they are, and we all love them for it. But I think
Yes.
some of my favorite artists are the ones that have got that spectrum, like yourself. That's why I love delving into your back catalogue. There was kind of like a sliding scale where you had, almost like Sabbath at one end, and then you had like, BB King kind of side of things over, and you were always somewhere along that scale. But it just depended where the song came out, and I think that's always interesting to hear.
Yeah, I think we don't live in a vacuum. And look, we're doing an interview, and you're on the other side of the ocean, and it's no problem. Music is like that too. It used to be, wow, if you came from Mississippi in the 1940s, you were definitely, authentic, quote unquote, blues artist, but today you can't help but hear all these other things. And if you don't allow yourself to be inspired by them, I think you're doing your art a disservice.
I'll go with that. I think that's it. I mean, I've got friends of mine, and I won't mention names because it's unfair to, who will say, "Oh, well, I don't listen to this band," and I'm like, "But you've not heard this song." There's bands that I'm not necessarily a big fan of, but every now and then a song comes along, and you're like, "Oh, that's cool."
Yeah,
And there's nothing wrong with that. You don't have to be a fan of everything. You can like
right.
certain things. We've all got our favorites, and we've all got bands and artists that we know as soon as they put out an album, you know you're going to love it. But equally, it's sometimes nice to be surprised by that what you wouldn't necessarily listen to.
Yeah, and I think sometimes people define who they are by what they listen to. It's
Mm,
a community, and that's really cool. But hey man, I'll admit it. I have an ABBA album.
yeah,
I'll listen to ABBA. you know, uh, uh, and is it my go-to? No, but every now and then I'm in the mood, man. Put on, take a chance, or Dancing Queen, or Winner Takes It All. Waterloo. I love all those songs.
yeah.
But it's not. I mean, if I had to choose between that or B.B. King on a desert island, well, I'd be bringing the B.B. King. So I'm with you on that.
Yeah, absolutely. But speaking of, your past catalog and everything, you just recently, I think it was last week, was it last Friday that you did the remixed and remastered version of Peace, Love, and Loud Guitars?
Yes, it came out Friday, and Chris Collier, who mixed High Voltage Blues, remixed and mastered this one. We
Nice.
had a lot of people that got turned on to our music, and they said, "Hey, so we got High Voltage Blues. What album should we get next?" And then we went, "Oh, shit." Um, so we decided, okay, let's take Peace, Love, and Loud Guitars and just remix it with the same mindset. And so that came out on Friday, and it's been well received thus far. So we're pretty stoked.
That's cool, man. I mean, obviously, it initially came out, was it 2017, 2018 it first came out?
2018, yeah, yeah. And I would say that was the album that began the journey of us being discovered, um, and then COVID sort of put a pause button for 3 years on that. But yeah, so it's good. Uh, I'm excited because people will get to experience this album for the first time who just recently joined us in a way that I think they'll really enjoy.
That's cool, man. Do you think that obviously, like songs, they change, they adapt the more you play them live? Did you approach them differently now that they've seen obviously a little bit of road, so to speak, with it?
Uh, this time we just decided let's just do a straight remix,
Mm.
because if we went in, I'd be there for 6 months trying to make it better. So yeah, so we just said, okay, look, yeah, let's let's present this to people, for many people, for the first time, and let's uh, give it the same treatment we did High Voltage Blues, which is cool. Um, yeah, yeah. No, man, if I was there, brother, I'd be there, yeah, for too long, working on it, trying to make it better.
Fair play, man. Fair play. You mentioned BB King then, so I saw, well, actually in Ryan's interview, you stay in the fact that you got to not only BB King being a big influence, but through a chance meeting at a jam session with his bus driver of all people, you ended up meeting the guy.
Yeah, yeah.
Insane.
It, I probably the single biggest moment in my lifetime. Um, I was in college. I was doing well in school, and but the truth be told, I was only in school to kill time while my music career was happening. If I'd only known it would have taken another 30 years work. But that was really the reason I was in school and studying, and I wasn't sure what road I wanted to take, but I got to meet B.B. King, and he took half an hour with me. Like,
Wow.
his bus driver, it was after the show, after he met everybody. And the driver said, we got to lie to people. I got to lie to BB and tell him that nobody else wants to meet him because he'll be here to 3 or 4 in the morning. And at that time, he was 70 years old, you know. And they said, you know, he needs to get his rest, but he was adamant on meeting everybody. And I had to wait a long time for this huge line.
Yeah.
And he had these two stacks of 8x10s, right? One was a headshot, one was a full shot of him rocking out. And he said, like, which picture do you like better? And they'd say, oh, I like that one. And he'd sign it and give it to them.
Oh.
And I thought, this is a 70-year-old man that pretty much just kicked everybody's butt that plays guitar in blues right here. He is the patriarch, the king, and he is the most humble servant to his fans. So that lesson wasn't lost. And then he took half an hour with me and explained all these things about how to have your own band and how to grow. And the lessons I still keep with me today. Like, and he believed, he said, you can do it, you know, you just have to keep working hard. And he explained, you know, to me, the music business seemed like such a dream and unattainable. And the next day I told my parents, much to their initial shock, and that I wanted to be a professional musician. You know? And it was because I met BB. I thought, well, if he thinks I can do it, okay, you know, it was such a beautiful moment and something that's still vivid in my mind, just meeting him and all the things we shared, you know.
Yeah, you're not going to get much more of a credit than BB King telling you can do it, are you? Let's be honest.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. And then we had the opportunity. He mentored so many people, and he'd make sure that they got gigs opening for him. Like, yeah, so we did a couple of tours with him and small amount of dates. And it was really, it was so cool, you know. You'd be like, one day we had catering, you know, and I'm sitting there and we've been on the tour for a little while. And I had to remind myself that I'm talking with BB King, right? It's just not like my adopted grandfather or whatever. Like, this is BB King. Like, I was so comfortable around him, and he made everybody feel so comfortable.
That's cool.
And he said, so how do you like the tour? I said, it's horrible. Said, what's wrong? I said, well, you know, we go up and we play, and then you get up and you play, and all my friends get to see where I stole all my licks from. So it's really embarrassing. And he had a good laugh, and he said, say borrow, don't say steal. And he said, if you just take from one person, it's stealing. But if you take from a lot of people, it's research. And he explained, he said, you know, a lot of people think that I invented all these things that I do, but I just did my own interpretation of it. And he explained, you know, Blind Lemon Jefferson and, you know, Bucka White and Lonnie Johnson and his heroes. And if you go back and listen to them, you can tell that they inspired BB, T-Bone Walker. But then he put his own thing on it and, you know, took it down the field 10 yards, you know, or 50 yards or whatever. And that was really eye-opening too. Somebody that took the time to explain how they got to where they were, and that sort of lets you behind the curtain. So and yeah, man, just moments like that, and all these great lessons he taught me, and it's so invaluable. And such a gracious person, absolutely the most humble, sincere person I've ever met in my life.
Wow.
And they incredible person. So very grateful, very life-changing. And I think the best way to keep his spirit alive is to embrace his spirit and his way of doing things, and trying to inspire those around you, you know. So
absolutely. Yeah. I mean,
so
was BB King the first guy that made you want to pick up guitar? He was the first one that made you go, I want to do that.
No, I got into BB later on. I got into rock and roll first.
Cool.
You know, I think the first thing that made me notice two things made me want to be a musician. One was my dad grew up in Portugal during the Depression, hard times.
Yeah.
Except 1 week a year, they had a feast, and they would, sometimes they went to bed hungry, but not during this feast. They ate, they drank, they raised hell, they partied, and they had these musicians that would come from out of town to celebrate. And I said, Dad, what happens to those musicians after the week is over? He goes, oh, they go to the other town and then they celebrate in that other town. And I thought, so you guys have 51 weeks of crap and 1 week of partying, but these musicians have 52 weeks. As a child, that was not lost on me. And then my cousins are French Canadian. My mom's French Canadian, and they were putting on a little play for the kids in their area, and they were pantomiming three rock songs, and they made me play bass, like a fake bass, and the band was called Pink Lead. So anyway, I didn't know what I was doing. We were just pantomiming, and all the neighborhood kids were going crazy. And I thought, I made like $5 or something, which that was my first professional gig. I didn't. But no, it was cool. And so that sort of was like, oh, this is a fun thing to do. Yeah, man. So that's sort of the things that got me into it. But guitar players, I was into rock, and I was into my first bands that probably AC/DC. And so I was 11 when I got Back in Black, and I wore it out, and got into Black Sabbath, Iron Maiden, Jimi Hendrix, and I slowly, I was listening to Iron Maiden, and then I heard Jimi Hendrix. I was like, whoa! And I remember in high school, my friend said, "Man, there's a dude that sounds like Jimi Hendrix. He's a blues guy." And I remember hearing Stevie Ray Vaughan, and whoa! Yeah. And I'm from Toronto, so Jeff Healey from Toronto, he started to get a lot of press, and I was like, whoa! And that just sort of got my journey to going backwards into discovering the blues, from rock. And I was like 19 when I got a B.B. King album, or CD actually, and I lived in the suburbs, so I had to take 2 buses and a subway, and I got home, put it on, and I went, okay, I get it. It was like, my analogy is, it's like eating rock music was like apple pie, and the blues was like an apple. And it was like, oh, I get it. I'm eating the apple pie because I really like the apples in it. And it's the pie's got the sugar and the crust and all this stuff, but now I get it. And I guess that sent me on this journey from that moment on. But yeah, as far as the rock guys, eventually it was like Richie Blackmore and Billy Gibbons, Jimmy Page, and Jeff Beck, of course, Hendrix, and then on the blues side, it was cats like B.B. King, Albert King, Buddy Guy, Albert Collins, Freddie King, Otis Rush, and they sort of became my superheroes, in my Marvel galaxy, there were all these guys that I really looked up to.
Yeah, they do, don't they? They, like you say, they become that thing. Like I remember, going through my dad's records as a kid, and I never sure, I didn't know what a bass guitar was. I just knew I liked that kind of deeper, more brooding line that was going on. And it was, bands like Sabbath and Geezer Butler and John Paul Jones and Phil Lynott and all those kind of guys. And then, yeah, like you say, when you really started sinking down to it. But like my mum was like a big Motown fan. So when I was like 13, 14, and I was like started off playing rock, but I was like 12 going on 13 when I first picked up bass. And then you start just like listening for bass lines. And then like I say, my dad was like a rock and blues guy, but my mum was very much a Motown girl and a soul girl. And as countless great bass lines and all that stuff. So I remember like being at school and just sitting there and I was playing a lick. And I remember my mate came up to me going, "Well, who's that? Is that Zeppelin? Is it, is it the Chili Peppers?" I remember saying to me once, "Is it the Chili Peppers?" I'm like, "No, it's Stevie Wonder."
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
He's like, "Why are
Yeah.
you listening to Stevie Wonder?" And I'm like, "It's got a good bass line, man. I don't care. It sounds great."
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, James Jamerson, what a bass
Oh,
player, you
phenomenal.
know. So yeah, all those records are really, really cool. And you you come to find out like Paul Rogers, one of my favorite singers, and he's listening to all the soul guys that I love, like Otis Redding and Wilson Pickett. And it's like, oh, no wonder I love Paul Rogers so much, because I love all these guys. And what blows my mind, Lee, is that a lot of my favorite music happened in the same time, but they were like in different avenues, like at the same time you had Zeppelin 2, Motown was happening. And
Yeah.
it's like, wow. I mean, Jimi Hendrix and Otis Redding were in the Monterey Pop Festival. How crazy,
Insane.
how crazy is that? These giants of the foundation were in two different genres, but playing at the same fest, making this great music at the same time that maybe today we look at as, on different shelves,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's interesting.
So with your own music, man, have you got your eyes set on the next record yet, or are you looking and focusing on actually supporting the remix and master version of Peace, Love, and Loud Guitars, and obviously High Voltage?
I think we wore our welcome out at 54 weeks on the charts with High Voltage Blues. So it's time for some new music. Yeah, definitely a release happening this year.
No.
Yeah, we're probably tracked 25 songs.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Enough for a double album, but it'll be a single album. Uh, there are a few double albums that are worthy, but I have so many double albums that I thought, man, if they had just put this on one album, it would have been the most killer album.
I'm with you.
So,
I'm with you on
yeah.
that. Like you
See,
say, there are a few that are exceptions to the rule, but there are definitely a lot of double albums where I go, if you just cut the fat a little bit, it would have just absolutely smashed it out of the park. So yeah, I'm with you on that one, mate.
yeah, so we kicked around the double album idea, but no, we're gonna make it strong. And I also got advice too from people early on that always put your best foot forward. Don't save anything, because by the time you get around to use it, you may have 10 other ideas that, if you're growing as an artist. So I always kept that in mind.
How does the writing process work for you? How do you work in terms of writing? Do you someone that goes away and has a set writing periods, or you just, when a riff comes to you, a riff comes to you kind of guy?
Yeah, we're servants to music, and to me, it's all about the music and the fan.
Hmm.
I serve those two things. And sometimes servicing the fans is by serving the music, But yeah, I wish I could write in a book Tuesday, 4 p.m. writing session, and then get there and, tune in the dial and inspiration hits. No, man, it's like 4 a.m. You wake up and you go, oh man, I'm so tired. Okay. You get up and you mumble something on your phone or I think inspiration just hits. For me, it's when some people write when they're really gloomy and depressed, not me. When the sun is shining and I'm happy or whatever, that's when I write. Even sad stuff, I write when the sun is shining. When I feel good and in a happy place, that to me is when I feel most creative. But yeah, and I like to work. People ask me what my songwriting process is, and it's backwards. So what I like to do is I like to start with a chorus or a theme and then move backwards from that, sort of like what's the peak of the song, okay? And then usually a title will, I like to wrap my mind around a title, the next album is called Praise the Loud. And so, it's sort of a pun on praise the Lord, praise the loud. So it was like, okay, well, this is not going to be a ballad. When I hear that, what sort of riff do I think of?
Yeah.
And I try to write a riff, or if I've collected some riffs, oh wow, that riff really sounds like it works with that title. And then, but a lot of times it really comes from a vocal. It starts with a vocal and a lyric idea, and either a chorus thing or a verse thing that relates to the chorus line, and then yeah, to me, like a lot of the old blues songs, they called them field hollers, and they would just write them while they were working. And to me, there's something very honest about that, and I like to almost approach songwriting in that way. You can add the heavy Marshall amps later on, so you got a melody and stuff. That can work in that way.
Yeah, nice one, man. So we're going on a live kind of feel. Have you got any plans to come over here to the UK, man?
We do. We have two humble dates in April. Saturday the 20th, we're in London, and then I think we're going to announce the 21st in Scotland at Bannerman's.
Oh, nice, great venue.
Yeah, and so a couple of shows, and then we'll keep coming back, man. I love, I talk to friends or bands in the UK, and they love coming to America. To them, there's just something. You come to America, man. Whoa. Well, for American bands or North American bands, it's the opposite. We're going to the UK, man. Like, whoa, this is, Zeppelin and Cream and Sabbath and Jeff Beck and all these great guys, Gary Moore, we're going to, it's awesome. But you get there and you're like, whoa, this is small. This is a lot smaller, and here's the funny thing, like in America, it's so big and touring is crazy. Like you'll have a 4 or 5 hour drive between markets, like without even thinking about it, And so we were playing a show in Ilston, UK,
Oh, yeah.
and we had an opening act, and they were so cool, man, so nice, and they were a little bit older. And the wife of the drummer and the guitar player said, "Oh, we're huge Beatles fans." I said, "Well, have you ever been to Liverpool?" And she's like, "Well, it's about 90 minutes away." I'm like, what? I mean, you can't even get from one side of Chicago to the other in 90 minutes. So, but that's cool because our perspective is of things being so widely spaced and so large.
Yeah.
So when we are in the UK, it's like, oh, that's Leeds. The Who live at Leeds. Oh wow! Even in London, it's like you're taking the subway and it's like, oh, there's Wimbledon. Oh, there's Royal Albert Hall. What it's like Earl's Court. It's like all these places you have, and they're like one train stop away, and in your mind they should be like
should be miles and miles
and miles apart. And not to mention you guys have the best swear words. So your vocabulary is doubled already. No, but it's just such a cool thing, and the UK's contribution to music is amazing. And what I find fascinating is they took American music and how they could get American music. People became friends because of their record collections, so they could share albums. And Mick and Keith joined together in a band because they got the same albums. And then they made this music that inspired the world, but it inspired America. And they were just giving them what they got from them, but they put it in this different way. And man, it's so fascinating. I love being in the UK. I love the crowds. I love the audiences. I love their passion for music. And because it's an older culture, right? I mean, America's 300 years old. I think there's an appreciation for the historic value of things and the legacy of things, more so in an environment where you're surrounded by that on a daily basis.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, so you know, and here's what's really cool about touring there. There's bands in Europe that I love that were never big in the US or never as big.
Okay.
And you know, and vice versa. Like I was hearing some interviews with bands. There's a band from Toronto called Triumph, and they never toured Europe, and they're huge in America. You know, and it's like, whoa, you know. So it gives you that ability to be a fan on both sides. So yeah, so we can nerd out, man, with our rock and roll brothers and sisters on both sides. It's very cool.
Absolutely, man. That's what life's about. Like you say, it's that going back to that swapping music thing. There's nothing, you know, as a, you know, people say, I've got my festival here. I've got obviously the radio show and, you know, the podcast. And, you know, people say to me, oh, there's nothing more exciting to me when someone goes, listen to this. And
Yes.
with people like Ryan, who used the shows on you, you introduced me yourself. I know when certain people say to me, Lee, you're going to love this. I know I'm going to love it. It's just they know me well enough, and there's that excitement. It goes. It's a sort of modernized version of what we were talking about there with Mick and Keith stood on with their vinyls at a train station and looking at each other, going, "Hang on, you like Howlin' Wolf, right? Let's have a chat," sort of thing. You know, it's a modern take up on that. I think sometimes.
Yeah, and I love that community. Like my cousin for Christmas gave me an album from a band called Roadwolf.
Okay, yeah.
They're European. It's like somebody took a time machine and went back to 1985 and put these guys in the time machine and brought them here today. But it's done with integrity. It's not like it's the real deal, man. I love this band. I've been jamming Road Wolf. I mean, any band that's got the word wolf in its name has to be cool. I mean,
Yeah.
and my cousin turned me. I didn't find this on the internet. I didn't, you know, um, somebody who said, "Hey, man, you know, I think you're going to dig this," you know, and he got it. You got it. You know, I got him accepts falls to the wall on vinyl for Christmas, and he got me Road Wolf, you know, and he's like, "You got to check this out, man." So, yeah. So there you go. Check them out, man. If you haven't,
I haven't. No, I'll check out Roadwolf, man. I'll have a give a listen to them. I'll give them a shout.
Yeah.
Nice one. But so, what does the rest of the year hold out for you, though, Anthony? Other than pushing, writing for the next record and touring.
Oh man. Well, I'm very grateful that I get to wake up every morning and do what I love, and so it's going to be uh, write, record, release, tour, repeat. you know, just some new markets. We're going to really start to get to Europe last year for the first time. We're hoping to expand that. We're getting into bigger venues. And I like getting into bigger venues because it allows us to put on the kind of show we would like to do, better PA. We give the fans a better show.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm just so grateful, Lee, after 25 years of doing this, that not many artists get to say that after usually 25 years, you're ramping down and phoning it in, and I feel more alive and vibrant and tuned in than ever. So I'm going to enjoy it while it lasts, and enjoy meeting new people and discovering new music and writing new music, and then also appreciating all these wonderful bands that are making great music that make me want to get out of bed in the morning. Yeah, so it's a wonderful time to be alive, and I'm just going to embrace that as best I can. And I mean, this is my first interview of the year, man. What a way to start, brother.
Oh, well, thank you very much, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
So, you're talking about, you've been in the business a long time. What would you say to any bands or artists that are just starting off? Like you had BB King parts and wisdom to you. If you could say anything to bands who are starting off, what would you say to them?
Well, I'd say, be open to constructive criticism on how to make yourself better. But at the end of the day, be 100% yourself. Trust in the music, trust in your fans. Never forget that they're the ones that are putting you where you are. And if you always serve the music, you always serve the fans, and you realize that you are a servant, then you will be the best version of yourself possible. And just go out there and do it, and don't let anybody stop you.
Can't think of a better way to end it, mate. So Anthony, thank you very much for your time, dude. At the
Thank you.
No, thank you, man. I'll be making sure I grab my tickets. London's only about about 2 hours away from me, so I'll be coming down that show. Be great to see you live, mate. At the beginning of the show, or beginning of the interview, I should say, I'm going to play Peace, Love, and Loud Guitars, with it being the title track of your most remixed and remastered release. But what song of yours would you like us to play at the end of the interview?
Well, in honor of your love of Billy Sheehan, we have to do Painted Horse.
Absolutely. All right, man. We'll lock that in. Thank you so much for your time, Anthony, mate. It's been great chat to you.
Oh, Lee, awesome, man. Thank you so much. And I got to meet you for the first time on Ryan's end of year thing. And I was like, oh man, this dude is so cool. And when I got your message, I was really excited about it. And I'm just so grateful that you reached out. So yeah, man. Let's touch base before we get to London. I don't know if we got comp tickets or something, but if we do, I'll put you on the list. If not, it'd be great to hang out or maybe grab a bite, or
that'd be cool, man.
An off day or something. So let's keep in touch for sure.
Yeah, let's keep in touch, buddy. And then, like I say, when it comes to April, we'll hook up somewhere along the line.
Yeah, man. Thank you for your time, brother.
No, thank you for yours, man.